Jake Morrison stood in the massive hall of the Galactic Council. The place was huge, carved from a single asteroid floating in space. Around him, creatures from 700 different worlds talked in languages he could not understand. Some looked like insects, others glowed with strange light. A few looked almost human, but not quite. Jake wore his best uniform. He was a commander in the Earth Defense Fleet, or at least he used to be. Now he was not sure what he was. Everything was changing so fast. Next to him stood Lisa Martinez. She was the human ambassador to the council. She looked calm, but Jake could see her hands shaking just a little. She had been reading the same document over and over for days. The document that would change everything for humanity. A tall creature stood up. It looked like a giant bug with shiny armor covering its body. When it spoke, a small device in Jake's ear translated the words into English. The creature's voice sounded angry. The humans have been part of our council for 3 years. In that time, they have started 17 wars. They have built 42 new weapons. They break the peace that we have kept for 10,000 years. They are too violent. They do not belong here. Jake felt his jaw tighten. 3 years ago, humans had discovered they were not alone. They found a beacon in space that led them to the council. It was amazing. Hundreds of alien species working together, sharing technology, living in peace. But humans were different. Humans came from Earth, a dangerous world where everything tried to kill you. Humans had to fight to survive. It was in their blood, in their history, in everything they were. What the aliens called violence, humans called being ready. What the aliens called war, humans called defense. The two sides could not understand each other. A bright light appeared in the center of the hall. It took shape slowly, forming into a being made of pure energy held inside a crystal. This was High Counselor Zephrix, the leader of the Galactic Council. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music. The decision is made. Humanity must give up all weapons. Every gun, every missile, every bomb must be destroyed. Your warships must be taken apart. Your defense fleet must end. Lisa stood up. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the fear behind it. And if we say no, then you will leave the council. We will turn off your hyperspace beacons. You will not be able to travel between stars anymore. Your colonies will be alone. You will get no help from us. You will be cut off from the galaxy until you learn to be peaceful. Jake felt his heart sink. Humans needed the council. In 3 years, alien technology had changed everything. New medicines cured diseases that used to kill millions. New energy systems gave power to everyone. New science helped humans understand the universe. Without the council, human colonies scattered across 12 star systems would die. Ships could not travel without the hyperspace beacons. Trade would stop. People would starve. Humanity would be trapped in their little corner of space alone again. But giving up every weapon meant trusting 700 alien species to protect them. It meant believing the galaxy was really as safe as the aliens said. We need time to think about this, Lisa said. You have 1 week, Zephrix said. Then you must answer. The next 7 days were the hardest of Jake's life. He and Lisa met with dozens of alien representatives. Some felt sorry for humans. Most did not care. The message was always the same. Give up your weapons or leave. Back on Earth, everyone argued about what to do. Military leaders wanted to fight. They said humans should never give up their ability to defend themselves. Scientists wanted to stay in the council. They said the knowledge they gained was worth any price. Normal people were scared. They did not want to be alone in the universe again. The president of Earth called a meeting of all world leaders. They talked for 3 days straight. In the end, they made a choice. Humanity would give up their weapons. They would trust the council to keep them safe. Jake stood with Lisa when she told the council their answer. We agree, she said. Humans will destroy all our weapons. We will trust you to protect us. The hall filled with strange sounds. Different aliens showed happiness in different ways. Some glowed brighter. Some released sweet smells. Others made musical noises. They were all celebrating. You have made a wise choice, Zephrix said. Welcome to true peace, humanity. But as Jake walked out of the hall, he felt wrong. Something deep inside him was screaming that this was a mistake. All his training, all his instincts told him that giving up weapons was dangerous. Humans had survived on Earth because they could fight. They had built civilization by being strong. They had reached the stars by never giving up. And now they were throwing all of that away. That night, Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about Earth's history. Every time humans trusted others to protect them, Something bad happened. Every time they let their guard down, enemies attacked. It was a pattern that repeated over and over. Lisa found him staring out a window at the stars. She looked tired. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Jake was quiet for a long time. "I think we made the only choice we could. But that does not mean it was right." She nodded. "I feel it too, like we just made ourselves weak." "The council says they have been at peace for 10,000 years, Jake said. "Maybe they know something we do not. Or maybe they forgot what it means to fight," Lisa replied. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were getting ready to be destroyed. Weapons factories were shutting down. Soldiers were going home. An entire civilization was giving up the tools of war. Jake hoped they were doing the right thing. But deep down, in a place that still remembered Earth's dangerous past, he knew the truth. They had just made humanity vulnerable, and in a galaxy they barely understood. That could be the worst mistake they ever made. The die was cast. The decision was made. Now all they could do was hope that the Council's promise of peace was real, because if it was not, humanity would have nothing left to defend themselves with. Nothing except their bare hands. 6 months passed. Jake stood in a shipyard above Mars, watching workers tear apart the last human warship. The ship was called the Freedom's Shield. It had been strong enough to fight off a small fleet. Now it was just pieces of metal floating in space. All over human territory, the same thing was happening. Factories that made weapons closed their doors. Military bases became schools and hospitals. Soldiers who had trained their whole lives for war went back to normal jobs. The entire human military was disappearing. Danny Webb floated over to Jake. He had been Jake's second in command on the Freedom Shield. Now he had nothing to command. "Sir, this feels wrong," Danny said. Jake nodded. "Every part of me is telling me we are making a mistake. We are leaving ourselves defenseless." "The Council promised their peacekeepers would protect us," Danny said. But he did not sound like he believed it. Jake had read about the Council's peacekeepers. They were supposed to be the greatest fighting force in the galaxy. For 10,000 years they had kept peace between hundreds of worlds. Their ships were powerful. Their soldiers were trained. They had never lost a battle. But Jake noticed something strange in the history files. The peacekeepers had not fought a real war in over 3,000 years. They stopped riots. They broke up small fights. They had not faced a real enemy in a very long time. What happens when you go so long without fighting that you forget how? Jake wondered. But he kept the thought to himself. 3 weeks later, everything changed. A colony called New Vancouver stopped sending messages. It was on the edge of Council space, far from any major worlds. At first, people thought it was just a technical problem. The Council sent a peacekeeper ship to check. The ship never came back. Then the refugees arrived. Jake was at the Council station when the transport ship came through the hyperspace gate. The ship was damaged badly. Its hull had huge burn marks. Parts of it were missing. It barely made it to the docking bay before the engines died. Inside were 200 survivors. They came from 3 different alien species. All of them looked terrified. All of them told the same story. They came from nowhere. They called themselves the Crawl. They attacked without warning. They destroyed everything. We barely escaped. The Crawl were something new. They came from dark space, the empty areas between galaxies where nobody lived. They had ships that were built only for war. They had weapons that tore through shields like paper. And they did not care about peace or negotiation. They just wanted to destroy. The Council called an emergency meeting. Jake went with Lisa. They watched as holographic videos showed what the Crawl had done. Entire colonies turned to ash. Trading posts blown apart. Ships destroyed so completely that nothing was left. The Crawl showed no mercy. They took no prisoners. They gave no warnings. They simply attacked and destroyed everything in their path. "We must send the peacekeepers immediately," Zephyr said. "This threat must be stopped." Every member of the Council agreed. The peacekeeping fleet, 100,000 ships strong, was sent to stop the Crawl. It was the largest military action the Council had taken in thousands of years. Everyone believed the peacekeepers would win. Easily, they were wrong. The battle happened in a place called the Hesperus sector. Jake watched the video feed from the Council station. At first, everything seemed fine. The peacekeeper ships moved into position. They had more ships. They had better technology. They should have won. But the Crawl fought differently than anyone expected. The peacekeepers used weapons designed to stop enemies without killing them. They used tactics meant to end fights quickly and safely. They tried to protect both sides from too much harm. The Crawl fought to kill. Their weapons destroyed ships completely. Their tactics were aggressive and brutal. They did not care about protecting anyone. They just wanted to win. Jake watched in horror as the Peacekeeper ship started exploding. The Crawl moved fast, hitting weak points, never giving the Peacekeepers time to organize. It was not a battle. It was a slaughter. In 6 hours, the entire peacekeeping fleet was destroyed. 100,000 ships. Millions of crew members. All gone. The council chamber turned into chaos. Aliens from every world screamed in fear. Some cried. Others tried to run. Everyone was terrified. The Peacekeepers were supposed to protect them. Now the Peacekeepers were gone, and the Crawl were still coming. Jake looked at Lisa. She looked back at him. They both knew what this meant. The galaxy had no army left. The Crawl would sweep through council space, destroying everything, and there was nothing to stop them. That was when Lisa stood up. Her voice cut through the noise in the chamber. "We can fight them." Everyone stopped talking. They all turned to look at her. Zephrix's crystal body pulsed with confusion. "Ambassador Martinez, you cannot fight. Your weapons are gone. Your ships are destroyed," Lisa smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a dangerous secret. "Our weapons are gone," she said. "But we are not." The bug-like alien who had called humans violent before spoke up. "What can you do without weapons? You are just as helpless as the rest of us now." Lisa looked directly at the alien. "You made us give up our guns. You made us destroy our ships. But you forgot something important. Humans are the weapon. We always have been." Jake felt something change in the room. For the first time since joining the council, he saw fear in the alien's eyes. Not fear of the Crawl, fear of humans, because they were starting to remember what humanity really was. Not a peaceful species trying to fit in, but survivors from a deadly world. Fighters who had crawled their way to the top of the food chain. Warriors who had never truly given up their weapons. They had only put them down for a while. The council gave humanity 1 month to prepare. Jake returned to Earth with a simple job. He needed to turn normal people into fighters. The problem was that everything humans used for war was gone. The weapon factories were shut down. The military bases were empty. Everything was destroyed, so they would fight the old way, the way humans had fought for thousands of years before guns were invented. With their hands, with their bodies, with their will to survive. Training camps appeared all over Earth and every human colony. Jake ran one camp outside Denver. 3,000 people came to learn how to fight. Some were old soldiers who wanted to serve again. Others were young people who had never been in a fight. Some were grandparents who remembered Earth before aliens arrived. Katie Powell stood next to Jake. She had been a drill instructor in the Marines. For the past year, she had been teaching children in a school. Now she was back in uniform. "Sir, how do we teach people to fight without weapons?" Jake looked at the crowd of nervous volunteers. "The same way humans have always fought. With our bodies. With our brains. With the refusal to give up. The training was hard. They learned how to fight with their hands and feet. They studied every fighting style that humans had created. Boxing, where you punched with your fists. Wrestling, where you threw people to the ground. Karate, judo, and dozens of other martial arts from every culture on Earth. Every human civilization had learned how to fight without weapons. Now all that knowledge came together. Punches from boxing. Throws from judo. Kicks from karate. Holds from wrestling. All of it mixed together into a fighting style that was purely human. But Jake taught them more than just how to hit and kick. He taught them strategy. How to use the ground around them. How to work as a team. How to find weak spots in an enemy. He taught them that fighting was not just about being strong. It was about being smart. One person who stood out was Sophie Grant. She was 23 years old and studying alien biology at university. She was small, only 5 feet tall, and looked like she had no business on a battlefield. But Sophie had been learning martial arts since she was a little girl. Her parents owned a training school. When Jake watched her fight against people twice her size, he saw something special. She was not just good. She was fearless. One evening after training, Sophie came up to Jake. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Sure," Jake said. "Do you really think we can win? The Crawl have ships and guns and everything we used to have. We just have our hands." Jake thought about his answer. "I think we have something they do not have. We remember what it means to fight to survive. We remember that war is not about having the best technology. It is about who wants to win more. And humans want to win more than anyone in this galaxy. Sophie smiled. Then let us show them what humans can do. While Jake trained fighters on Earth, Danny Webb was solving a different problem. Humans needed ships to get to the battle. The Council had destroyed all the warships, but they had not destroyed the civilian ships. Cargo haulers that carried goods between planets. Mining ships that dug up asteroids. Transport ships that moved colonists. These ships were not built for fighting, but Danny would make them work anyway. He gathered a team of engineers. They started taking the ships apart and putting them back together. They removed everything that was not needed. They made the hulls stronger with metal plates. They pushed the engines to go faster, even though it might burn them out. The biggest problem was weapons. How could they fight without guns or missiles? The answer came from a mining engineer named Carlos Jung. He suggested using the tools they already had. Mining lasers that were made to cut through rocks, giant mechanical arms that could grab and crush things. Even the machines that processed ore could be turned into weapons that threw chunks of metal. It was not pretty. It was not fancy, but it would work. In 3 weeks, Danny put together a fleet of 500 ships. They were ugly. They looked like they might fall apart at any moment. They were held together with spare parts and hope, but they could fly and they could fight. It would have to be enough. On the last day before they left for battle, Jake gathered all the volunteers. 3,000 people stood in front of him. They came from every part of human space. Different colors, different languages, different backgrounds, but they were all human. And they were all ready to fight. The Council thinks we are weak because we have no weapons, Jake said. The Crawl think we are easy prey because we have no ships. They are both wrong. Humans have survived ice ages and plagues and world wars. We climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. We did not do that because we had the best weapons. We did it because we never gave up. He paused, looking at each person. The Crawl are coming. They will expect us to run. They will expect us to surrender. Instead, we are going to show them what it means to fight a human. We are going to show the galaxy that you do not need guns to be dangerous. You just need to be human. The crowd erupted in cheers. They shouted and clapped and stomped their feet. For the first time in months, Jake felt hope. These people were not professional soldiers. Most of them had never been in a real fight. But they had something that could not be trained. They had the human spirit. The same spirit that made their ancestors hunt animals bigger than themselves. The same spirit that made them build cities and invent technology. The same spirit that pushed them to explore space even when it was dangerous. Katie came up to Jake after the speech. They are ready, sir. Jake nodded. Then let us go show the galaxy what humans can do. The ships left Earth the next morning. 500 ugly, barely functional vessels carrying 3,000 fighters. They were going to a colony called New Horizon. The Crawl were heading there next. Intelligence said the Crawl fleet would arrive in 4 days. It would be the first real test. Could humans really fight without weapons? Could they stand against an enemy with superior technology? Could they win using nothing but their bodies and their will? Jake sat in his cabin on the transport ship. He cleaned and checked his gear. Not weapons because he had none. Just basic armor to protect his body. Gloves to protect his hands. Boots with good grip. The tools of hand-to-hand combat. Lisa had stayed at the Council to coordinate. She sent him a message before they left. Good luck, Jake. Show them what we are made of. He sent back a simple reply. We will. Humanity does not know how to quit. The ships jumped to hyperspace. 4 days until the Crawl arrived. 4 days until humanity proved itself. 4 days until they showed the galaxy that banning human weapons was the biggest mistake the Council had ever made. Because humans did not need weapons to be dangerous. They were the weapon. The Crawl came to New Horizon exactly when intelligence said they would. Jake watched from a bunker as their ships appeared in the sky. There were dozens of them, big and dark and built only for war. They looked nothing like the peaceful ships of the Council. These were predators. New Horizon was a colony where humans lived alongside 3 alien species. When the warning came that the Crawl were coming, most of the aliens left. They ran to safety. But the humans stayed. They had nowhere else to go. And even if they did, they would not run. Jake had positioned 5,000 fighters all around the colony. They hid in buildings, behind walls, in underground tunnels. They waited. The Crawl would not see them until it was too late. The crawl ships began their attack. Bright beams of energy shot down from orbit, destroying buildings and leaving huge craters. The aliens fought the way they always fought, with massive force. They expected everyone to break and run in fear, but the humans did not run. They stayed hidden and waited. After an hour of bombing, the crawl landing craft came down. They were big metal boxes that slammed into the ground and opened up. Crawl soldiers poured out, ready to finish what the bombing started. Jake watched them through binoculars. The crawl soldiers were huge, at least 7 feet tall. They had hard armor covering their bodies like insects. They carried plasma rifles that could melt through metal. They moved in perfect formation, expecting easy victory. Jake pressed the button on his radio. Now, Sophie Grant was with the first squad to attack. She and 20 others had been hiding in the ruins of a warehouse. When they heard Jake's order, they moved. The crawl were trained to fight at a distance. They used their rifles to shoot enemies from far away. They were not ready for humans who ran straight at them, dodging their shots, getting close before they could react. Sophie moved like a dancer, fast and smooth. A crawl soldier swung its weapon at her. She ducked under it, drove her fist into a weak spot in its armor, and used its own weight to throw it down. Another human grabbed a crawl's weapon arm, twisted until the joint cracked, and stabbed the alien with its own blade. It was brutal. Blood and violence like the galaxy had not seen in thousands of years. But it worked. All across New Horizon, the same thing happened. Humans came out of hiding and attacked. No guns, no missiles. Just fists and feet and elbows and knees. Just bodies used as weapons. Just pure human aggression unleashed. The crawl were confused. They had never fought enemies like this. Enemies who got too close to shoot. Enemies who did not fear death. Enemies who kept coming even when they were hurt. And humans were very, very good at close combat. Jake coordinated the battle from his command post. He watched the tactical displays and gave orders. The crawl kept trying to form firing lines where they could use their rifles. But every time they did, humans would charge in and break the formation. The crawl had armor, but humans knew where the weak points were. The joints, the neck, the places where the armor had gaps. Every martial art on Earth taught you to find those weak spots. Now that knowledge was being used against alien enemies. The battle went on for hours. Jake lost hundreds of fighters, good people who would never go home. But for every human who died, 2 crawl fell. And unlike the crawl, humans were willing to trade lives to win. Then Danny Webb arrived with the fleet. The human ships dropped out of hyperspace right above New Horizon. They were ugly and looked like they might fall apart. But they moved fast and hit hard. They went straight for the crawl ships in orbit. The crawl ships were bigger and stronger. They had better weapons. They should have won easily, but they did not understand what they were fighting. Danny led his ship straight at a crawl cruiser. His mining lasers cut into its hull. His mechanical arms grabbed onto its weapons. And when nothing else worked, he did something crazy. He rammed it. His ship hit the crawl cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a massive fireball. Danny and everyone on his ship died instantly. But they took a crawl cruiser with them, and they showed the other human ships what to do. More human ships followed Danny's lead. When their weapons failed, they used themselves as weapons. They rammed into crawl ships, trading their lives for enemy vessels. It was insane. It was suicide. It was the most human thing anyone could imagine, and it was working. The crawl had never seen tactics like this. They were used to enemies who valued their own lives, who tried to minimize losses, who fought carefully and safely, but humans did not fight that way. Humans fought to win no matter the cost. The crawl fleet broke apart. Some ships tried to retreat. Others kept fighting, but their formation was destroyed, and without coordination they were vulnerable. The remaining human ships pressed their attack. They chased down retreating crawl vessels. They worked together, surrounding enemy ships and tearing them apart with mining lasers and mechanical arms. They fought with a fury that surprised even Jake. On the ground, the crawl soldiers realized they were losing. Without ships in orbit to support them, they were trapped. They fought harder, more desperate. But desperation could not beat human determination. Sophie and her squad cornered a group of crawl soldiers in a plaza. The aliens tried to make a last stand, but they were tired. Their armor was damaged. Their weapons were running out of power. Sophie looked at them. Even through their helmets, she could see fear in their eyes. They finally understood what they were fighting. Not weak creatures who needed weapons, But survivors who would do anything to win. The Crawl soldiers dropped their weapons and surrendered. It was the first time in the war that Crawl had surrendered to anyone. By evening, the battle was over. The Crawl fleet was destroyed or retreating. Their ground forces were either dead or captured. New Horizon was safe. Jake walked through the battlefield. Bodies lay everywhere, human and Crawl together. The cost had been high. He had lost over 1,000 fighters. Danny and hundreds of ship crews were gone, but they had won. Against all odds, with no weapons, with barely functional ships, humans had defeated the Crawl. Katie found him standing in the ruins. She looked tired and had blood on her uniform. "We did it, sir." Jake nodded. "Yes, we showed them that humans do not need weapons to be dangerous. We just need to be human." Sophie walked up to join them. She was limping, but alive. "What now, sir?" Jake looked up at the sky where fires still burned from destroyed ships. "Now we go back to the council, and we show them what we just proved. That banning human weapons was pointless. Because we are the weapon, news of the victory spread fast. All across council space, people heard about the humans who fought without weapons and won. The species that everyone called too violent had just saved a colony when nobody else could. The galaxy was watching. And they were starting to understand. Humans were not barbaric. They were survivors. And sometimes survival required violence. When Jake and Lisa entered the council chamber, something was different. Every single delegate stood up. Jake had never seen that happen before. Some species raised their arms in salute. Others bowed their heads. A few just stared with what looked like respect mixed with fear. The huge hall was completely silent. 700 civilizations waited to hear what the humans would say. Zephyrix's crystal body glowed brighter than Jake had ever seen. Its voice, usually calm and musical, carried emotion. "Ambassador Martinez, Commander Morrison, you have done something we thought was impossible. You defeated the Crawl without weapons, without warships, with nothing but your determination and your hands." Lisa stood tall. She looked tired, but strong. "With respect, High Counselor, we had weapons. We had the greatest weapons any species can have, our bodies, our minds, and our refusal to give up." The bug-like alien who had called humans barbaric 6 months ago came forward slowly. Its whole posture had changed. It looked humble now, almost embarrassed. "We were wrong about you. We called you violent when we should have called you warriors. We thought your nature was a weakness. But it was your greatest strength." Jake felt something shift in the room. These civilizations had spent 10,000 years avoiding war. They thought peace was the only way to be civilized. But the Crawl had taught them a hard lesson. Sometimes you have to fight to protect peace. An alien made of living crystal spoke up. Its voice was like bells ringing. "We need to learn from you. The Crawl are still out there. They will come back. We need to know how to fight like you do." Other delegates agreed. Voices from all over the chamber called out, "Teach us. Show us. Help us learn." Zephyrix raised one glowing limb for silence. "The Council proposes that humanity train our warriors. You will teach us your ways of combat. You will help us build a real defense force, one that can protect the galaxy from threats like the Crawl." Jake looked at Lisa. She looked back at him. They had talked about this moment. They knew what they needed to ask for. Lisa spoke clearly so everyone could hear. "We will teach you, but we have one condition." "Name it," Zephyrix said without hesitation. "You will not ban our weapons again, not our technology, not our ships, not our ability to defend ourselves. You will accept that the human way of war is not barbarism, it is survival. And in this galaxy, we need to be strong to survive." The chamber went completely silent. This was a huge request. The Council had spent thousands of years restricting military technology. Now humans were asking for complete freedom to build whatever they wanted. Zephyrix's glow pulsed several times. Jake could tell it was thinking hard. Then it spoke. "Agreed. Humanity will be free to maintain its military. More than that, you will lead the Council's new defense force. You will command it." Jake felt a huge weight lift off his shoulders. They had not just won a battle. They had won respect. They had won acceptance. And most importantly, they had won the right to be themselves. The next 6 months changed everything. Jake set up training facilities on the Council Station and on dozens of other worlds. Warriors from hundreds of species came to learn human fighting techniques. It was strange at first. Aliens had very different bodies. Some had 4 arms, others had no arms at all. Some were huge and strong, others were small and fast. But Jake and his team adapted the techniques for each species. Sophie became one of the best instructors. She was patient and skilled. She could show a 4-armed alien how to use all its limbs in combat. She could teach a floating gas creature how to use its density as a weapon. She was a natural teacher. The aliens learned fast. They were clumsy at first, but they improved quickly. More importantly, they learned something beyond just fighting techniques. They learned the human mindset, the refusal to quit, the willingness to take risks, the understanding that sometimes you have to fight to protect what you love. While Jake trained soldiers, the Council was building new ships. This time they asked human engineers for advice. The new vessels were designed for real war, not just peacekeeping. They had strong armor, powerful weapons, aggressive tactics built into their systems. Katie ran one of the training camps on a water world. She taught aquatic species how to fight underwater. She was tough but fair, and her students respected her. One day she sent Jake a message. "Sir, you should see this. A Vren warrior just threw a human instructor. They are really learning." Jake smiled when he read that. It meant the training was working. The galaxy was learning to fight. But the Crawl were not sitting idle. Intelligence reports showed they were building a new fleet. They were gathering forces. They were preparing for another attack. This time it would be bigger. This time they would expect resistance. Lisa found Jake one evening at the main training facility. He was watching a mixed group of humans and aliens sparring together. She handed him a data pad. New information on the Crawl. They are coming back, maybe 6 months, maybe less. Jake read the report. The Crawl were calling in forces from all over dark space. They were building hundreds of new ships. They were recruiting more soldiers. They had learned from their defeat and were coming back stronger. "Good," Jake said. Lisa looked surprised. "Good?" Jake gestured at the training floor. "Look at them. Humans and aliens fighting together, learning together, getting stronger together. The Crawl think they are preparing for us, but we are preparing for them too. And this time, the whole galaxy is ready." Lisa smiled. It was a fierce smile, the kind humans got when they were ready to fight. "Let them come. This time we will have ships and weapons. But more importantly, we will have warriors who know how to use them." That night, Jake stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. Ships from 100 worlds moved through space around him. Training exercises lit up the darkness. Fighters practiced maneuvers. Soldiers drilled on boarding actions. The galaxy was learning to be warriors. Sophie came to stand beside him. She had been promoted to senior instructor. Her students loved her. "Do you think we changed things, sir? Really changed them?" Jake thought about the question. 6 months ago, the galaxy was defenseless. The peacekeepers were destroyed. Everyone was terrified. Now look at us. We have trained thousands of warriors. We have built new ships. We have created a real defense force. Yes, Sophie. We changed everything. She looked out at the training exercises. My parents always said that martial arts were not about violence. They were about being ready to protect what matters. I think the galaxy is finally learning that lesson. Jake nodded. That is exactly right. Peace is not just the absence of war. It is the strength to defend what you love. The Council forgot that. We reminded them. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the future take shape in front of them. The galaxy had changed. Humans had changed it. And there was no going back. The Council had banned human weapons, thinking it would make the galaxy safer. Instead, they learned that the most dangerous weapon in existence could never be banned. It was the human spirit, the refusal to surrender, the willingness to fight with bare hands if necessary. When the Crawl came back, they would find a galaxy very different from the one they had attacked before. They would find civilizations that knew how to fight, warriors trained by humans, ships designed for war, and an entire galactic community that refused to be victims. Jake looked at his reflection in the observation window. He was older now, more tired, but also more at peace. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as barbarians to be civilized, but as warriors to be respected. The Council had tried to make humans weak by taking away their weapons. Instead, they discovered that humans did not need weapons to be strong. They just needed to be themselves, and in being themselves, humans had saved the galaxy. The second Crawl invasion came exactly 5 months after Lisa received the intelligence report. This time they brought 3 times as many ships. This time they came prepared for human tactics. This time they thought they would win. They were wrong. Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiant, the flagship of the new Council Defense Force. Around him, crew members from a dozen different species worked together smoothly. They had trained for this moment. They were ready. The Crawl fleet appeared on the edge of the system. Sensors showed hundreds of warships moving in formation. They were headed for a major colony world with millions of inhabitants. If they reached it, the death toll would be terrible. But this time, the galaxy was ready. Jake commanded a fleet of 5,000 ships. Not the barely functional mining vessels from the first battle. These were real warships designed by humans and built by the Council. Fast, strong, and deadly, all ships. This is Morrison. You know what to do. Show them what we have learned. Show them that this galaxy will not be conquered. The fleet moved forward, ships from 100 worlds flying together, friend cruisers with insectoid crews who had learned human combat tactics, crystal vessels commanded by beings of living stone who now understood aggression. Even the peaceful trading species had warriors on their ships now. The battle was fierce. The Crawl had learned from their first defeat. They stayed spread out so humans could not get close. They focused their fire on individual ships. They fought smarter and harder than before, but the Council fleet had learned too. They used human tactics, aggressive attacks, coordinated strikes, never giving the enemy time to breathe. And when ships got damaged, their crews did not retreat. They kept fighting until the mission was done. Sophie commanded a boarding team. When a Crawl ship's shields went down, she led 50 warriors straight into its belly. The team was mixed, humans and aliens fighting side by side. They moved through the enemy ship like a storm, using everything Jake had taught them. The Crawl fought back hard, but they were not prepared for aliens who fought like humans. A Vren warrior grabbed a Crawl soldier with all 4 arms and threw it through a bulkhead. A crystal being moved through walls like a ghost attacking from unexpected angles. And the humans, well, the humans did what humans did best. They refused to quit. Sophie's team captured the Crawl ship's bridge in 30 minutes. They took the captain prisoner and sent signals that shut down the ship's weapons. 1 enemy vessel neutralized, dozens more to go. The space battle raged for hours. Jake coordinated from the Defiant, moving ships like chess pieces. He had studied every battle in human history. He knew how to fight outnumbered. He knew how to turn enemy strength into weakness, and now he taught the galaxy those lessons. Katie commanded a squadron of fast attack ships. They darted in and out of the Crawl formation, hitting weak points and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Her crews were all trained in hit-and-run tactics. They were like wolves hunting much larger prey. Slowly, the tide turned. The Crawl had more ships, but the Council fleet fought smarter. They worked together. They protected each other. They used tactics that the Crawl could not predict. And most importantly, they had something to fight for. The Crawl were conquerors. They fought for plunder and glory. But the Council fleet fought for their homes, their families, their entire civilization. That made all the difference. After 8 hours of brutal combat, the Crawl fleet began to retreat. They had lost over half their ships. Their invasion was broken. They fled back into dark space, defeated again. The Council fleet did not chase them. Jake gave the order to hold position and let them go. There had been enough death for one day. The important thing was that the colony was safe. The galaxy was safe. Victory. The celebration at the Council station was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Representatives from every species came together to honor the warriors who had fought. There was music and food and speeches in 1,000 languages, But Jake did not feel like celebrating. He kept thinking about all the people who had died, human and alien alike, warriors who would never see their homes again. He stood alone on a balcony looking out at the stars when Lisa found him. "You should be in there," she said, gesturing to the celebration behind them. "You are the hero of the day." Jake shook his head. "I am not a hero. I am just someone who knows how to fight, and I wish I did not have to." Lisa stood beside him quietly for a moment. "That is what makes you a good leader. You do not love war. You do it because it is necessary. Do you think the crawl will come back?" Lisa considered the question. "Maybe, but if they do, we will be ready. And next time they will think twice. They have learned that this galaxy bites back." Inside the celebration hall, Sophie was teaching a group of young alien recruits a human dance. They were clumsy and kept stepping on each other, but they were laughing. Katie stood nearby, telling war stories to a circle of fascinated listeners. The galaxy had changed so much in 1 year. Zephyrix found Jake on the balcony. Its crystal body glowed softly in the starlight. "Commander Morrison, I wanted to thank you personally. You have given the galaxy something we lost long ago, the ability to defend ourselves." Jake turned to face the High Counselor. "With respect, you never lost it. You just forgot it. We reminded you that peace is not weakness. It is strength used wisely." Zephyrix's glow pulsed thoughtfully. "When we first met you, we thought humans were too violent, too dangerous. We tried to change you. We see now that was wrong. Your violence is not a flaw. It is part of what makes you strong." Jake smiled slightly. "We prefer to call it determination. But yes, I suppose it is the same thing." "What will you do now?" Zephyrix asked. "The war is over. The crawler defeated." Jake looked out at the training facilities visible in the distance. "Keep training. Keep preparing. Build more ships. Make sure that if the crawl come back or if any other threat appears, the galaxy will be ready. Peace is not permanent. It is something you have to work for every single day." "A wise philosophy," Zephyrix said. "Very human." Later that night, Jake recorded a message to Earth. It would be broadcast to every human world and colony. He wanted everyone to know what they had accomplished. 1 year ago, the Council banned our weapons. They thought they were making the galaxy safer. They thought they were civilizing us. Instead, they learned something important. Humans do not need weapons to be dangerous. We are dangerous because of who we are, because we survived on a deadly world, because we learned to fight with our hands when we had nothing else, because we never ever give up." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "The Council tried to change us, but we changed them instead. We taught the galaxy that peace is not about avoiding conflict. It is about being strong enough to protect what matters. And now, thanks to all of you who trained and fought and sacrificed, the entire galaxy knows how to fight like humans." Jake looked directly into the camera. "We are no longer the newcomers who everyone feared. We are the warriors who saved civilization. We are the teachers who showed a peaceful galaxy how to survive. We are humanity, and the stars themselves will remember what we did here." He ended the recording and sat back. Through the window, he could see ships moving through space. Training exercises that would continue every day. Warriors who would keep practicing. A galaxy that had learned to defend itself. The Council had banned human weapons, so humans fought with their hands. And in doing so, they taught the entire galaxy that the most powerful weapon was not something you held. It was something you were. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as barbarians, not as outsiders, but as warriors and teachers, as protectors and leaders, as the species who reminded everyone that strength and peace could exist together. The galaxy was safe. For now. And when the next threat came, whenever that might be, humanity would be ready, because that is what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They fought with whatever they had, even if all they had was their bare hands.